Stressed out? Need sleep? The cold weather bringing out those aches and pains or arthritis? There's never been a better time to try cannabis. Check out the greenhouse of Walled Lake and learn about the natural way to relax and escape all that 2020 stress. The greenhouse is locally owned, and they love helping people who are new to cannabis. They've got a great flower selection of the best Michigan-grown buds and the biggest pre-roll selection around. Don't want to smoke? No problem. There's vape carts, tinctures, concentrates, and everyone's favorite, edibles, like gummies, chocolates, peppermint bark, breath sprays, even the original Mackinac Island fudge. So check out the greenhouse of Walled Lake. 21 and over welcome, no med card needed. They also offer senior and veterans discounts and have a great loyalty rewards program. The Greenhouse of Walled Lake. That's greenhousemi.com. Hey, greetings, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome to the week that was on Deadline Detroit. I'm your host, Craig Fahle, and I know I say this every single week, but man, what more? What more could go on in this country? There's a lot to talk about today, a lot of things that have me incredibly upset that we will get through on this program. But I would like to welcome my guests, first of all. Of course, Allan Lengel, who is the editor and co-founder of Deadline Detroit, is back with us once again, sir. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
All right. Attorney Todd Perkins is with us once again, and also the owner of Lynette's Shrimp House in Highland Park. Todd, welcome back.
Thanks for having me. And Black Lives Still Matter.
Yes, they do indeed. Adolph Mongo returns again this week, longtime political consultant, but you can also hear his program on 9:10 a.m., the Superstation, from 10 to noon on Saturdays. Adolph, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me back. And Todd, I tried out those shrimp. They were good.
Well, we keep on working to get better.
And for the first time on the program, we have my friend Steph White. She, of course, is a policy wonk for the state of Michigan these days, but the former head of Equality Michigan. Steph, welcome. It's a pleasure to talk to you. And I still have yet to go for a ride in that Bullet Mustang that you own. We have to rectify that pretty soon.
Yes, we do, Craig. And thanks for having me on with all the guys today.
It's great to see you back here once again, because she has been a guest on my program on numerous occasions. But all right, everybody, there is so much to get to today. I mean, think about this. We had an insurrection in the U.S. Capitol that took place on Wednesday, the same day that a Jewish man and a black man were elected to the Senate in the state of Georgia, flipping the Senate to the Democrats' control. The president might get impeached in the next few days. Who knows? I mean, if you would have told me a couple of weeks ago that this was possible, what we saw on Wednesday, I would have said, come on, there is no way that these people are going to take this to this level. But I'm starting to realize something, that if a bunch of white nationalists tell you they're going to do something, chances are you should pay attention, because they're likely going to do it. I mean, this was an embarrassment in so many levels. And the blame lies squarely at the feet of the current occupant of the White House. This was a shameful moment in the United States. And we had a president leading basically an insurrection at the White House. I don't think that's overstating it. And I mean, let's just get this out of the way first. What was everybody thinking as they watched what was unfolding on Wednesday?
Where are the police? Where are the National Guard? Where are the troops? Listen, when Black Lives Matters, when they had debates on disability, etc., these folks came. And federal police. I lived in D.C. Allan, you lived in D.C.
Yep.
You know they got so many police departments. Yep. They was ready when Trump wanted to walk across the street and get a photo op. They had the army come and pepper spray folks.
Yep.
Where were they at? But you know what? Anytime you get these white supremacists together, the police, who probably 1/3 of them are probably sympathizer with these folks. You can look at Lansing. You can see what they let them do up in Lansing. You can see the plot to kidnap Whitmer. And I remember a few years ago, over 3,000 white armed men converged on Macomb Community College, and the police sat there and did nothing. So I'm not surprised. And they went in and they declared war on the United States Congress, and nobody did anything. I wanted to jump through the TV, say, "Where is that?"
My thing is that I'm glad it happened, because now the truth is out to the rest of the entire world. It's kind of like the civil rights movement. What made the civil rights movement so impactful was when they see Bull Connor holding those kids down in the street. Then the rest of the world, like Vietnam, is How are you going to tell me how I'm supposed to live? And you treat your own indigenous people like this. So, the truth is out. It's never changed. It's just now reality is set foot, and the embarrassment should take hold in the people that support him. I mean, intense embarrassment. And furthermore, as far as what Adolf said, remember the march that the women had in objection to Trump's winning? They had more police for that than they did the other day. You know what I'm saying? They had police everywhere for that. You see them in photos and everything. And this is a situation. It was coordinated, number one, and we're gonna get to that eventually. Just like every conspiracy that we have, it was coordinated. And that man, they called the president. He told the National Guard to stand down.
Yep.
Because the National Guard was called. Remember, a couple of days before this, the National Guard was on call. He told him to stand down.
Yeah.
Well, and even go ahead, Allan. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, having lived and worked in Washington, D.C., I covered a lot of those things. I covered the inauguration of the Bush inauguration. I covered, these massive marches and stuff. And I was kind of shocked because I've known previously, who ran the Capitol Police, Terry Gaynor, who had previously been head of the Illinois State Police and was the deputy chief of the D.C. Police. I was kind of shocked how vulnerable it was. I'm told that, they have about 2,000 people on their force, which is huge for such a concentrated area, but they only had about 500 on. I think somebody was telling me this morning that somebody from DC I was talking to was telling me that they had about 500 out of 2,000. They had people working 12-hour shifts, and because I think part of it may be because of COVID. And normally, though, what happens is I know in DC, whenever there were big problems going on, whenever there was a spike in homicides or something, they would have people stay on from their shift. If they were done after 8-10 hours, they had them stay on for an extra 5 hours to overlap. I was kind of surprised by, there's, as Adolf was saying, there's so many police forces, not only in the district, including, the Park Police, the DC Police, you have all the federal agencies, the FBI office is huge in DC, but you also have access to, police departments, Prince George's County in Maryland, Montgomery County in Maryland, Fairfax County in Virginia. It's an endless pool of sources. And so I was kind of shocked how vulnerable. And one last thing is that, I'm friends with the ATF agent, a retired ATF agent, so a smart guy, but we've had arguments over, early in the summer where he says, you don't see our side getting violent. We just have guns. Yeah, we bring guns to the Capitol, but you don't see violence. You only see it in, the Antifa and Black Lives Matter. And I'm like, what are you talking about? That's just nonsense. And I posted something on his site after this happened. And I said, well, it must have been Antifa and Black Lives Matters undercover that were doing that. And he has not responded. So.
Well, the fact that they're trying to actually pin this on Antifa, as opposed to the people who are wearing the Camp Auschwitz T-shirts, that's maddening. And obviously there's going to be some sort of reckoning for this right wing media atmosphere that's out there right now with OAN and Newsmax and places like that are still peddling this stuff, peddling obvious lies. And Steph, it's one of those things, you're watching it and I'm pulling my hair out as I'm watching the TV the other day. I was actually literally pacing around the living room. I was so upset about what was happening.
I hope that there's some accountability for the media that help to, pass these lies around and whip people up. But maybe I'm just too cynical, but I'm afraid that, we're going to spend some time maybe doing a few empty gestures and making some big statements. And then we'll just go back to, it's no big deal and be business as usual. I hope.
I loved is that I thought it was all Kelly Loeffler when she stood up and gave her speech. It was almost like after all this trauma that happened in the Capitol, she was like, never mind. Okay, we were going along with the Trump lie and stuff. We were doing it, but never mind.
Yeah.
Well, they like rats. The first rats are the first to jump a sinking ship. So everybody want to get off that sinking ship. But you know what? The headquarters of the Marine Corps is 25 miles away. They could have sent a battalion of Marines in there. You attacking the Capitol. John Brown attacked the federal arsenal, and they send Marines, the Army, and everything. That was an act of war, and it was brought on by the President of the United States.
Well, but Adolf, it would be an act of war if it wasn't their brothers and cousins doing it. You see what I'm saying? They were all in that. Most of those people are in line with what happened. I look at what happened as, let's see how far we can push this envelope, and then we're going to keep on going. So now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it squarely at the feet of the Democrats to do what they're supposed to do. If they're going to be as not necessarily as adamant about the position of saving face for America and saving us as being what we should be is the diplomats, the superpower of this world. It is incumbent upon them to act in just the same fashion on the opposite side of the spectrum as maniacal as the Republicans have gotten. So
you got to draw a line, right?
Harry Reid. When the Democrats controlled the House and the Senate under Harry Reid, he played by the rules. Ain't no There's no rule.
This is war. If it's war, this is a different act of engagement. So now there's a different act of engagement. Now all bets are off from what we used to do because they've reset the table. So now, in order to get the table fairly square, I look at this as a good opportunity. I look at when you have a depression and things of that as you look at it from an economic standpoint. You talk to economists. A depression is nothing but a great transfer of wealth. I look at this as a potential great transfer of power from people who should not have it to people who deserve it. So this is an opportunity.
Here's the question, though. I mean, how do we make those people who are indeed responsible for this accountable? Because there's a lot of discussion about, the enablers of President Trump peddling this lie about a flawed election and a rigged election, and the people who knew that it was bullshit, who still peddled it anyway because they're trying to curry favor with this base of implorables that Donald Trump now controls, or maybe he doesn't anymore. We'll talk about that too. But this people, they're so afraid of getting primaried in the next election cycle that they're willing to go along with a complete and total lie, which had the possibility of leading to even more death than we've already seen. I mean, we had months of hearings on Benghazi where 4 people were killed. 5 people are now dead, including a Capitol police officer because of this insurrection. Do we have months of hearings about this? And is that something
you hunt them down like the racist dogs that they are. That's what you do. You call them what they are, you call them out, and as you continue to call them out, the only way you get rid of a pimple, right, is to get the blackhead out. Black, maybe not the right necessarily word. Hey, but you got to get head. And what I'm saying is you go and you have profuse hearings. You go through this, you spend the energy. It's like getting in shape. It's hard getting in shape. It's going to be hard for us as Americans to see, people that we live next door to who we're finding out don't like us and things of that nature. That's fine. But at the same time, if we're going to get along and be the country that we're supposed to be in theory, and practice that in reality, then we're going to have some level of equality. And if we have equality, if I have a voice, if other minority communities have a voice, if women have a voice, and you're talking about equal pay, there's so much at stake that is a benefit that we have an opportunity to take advantage of and make it right. And this is just the right thing to do. So you hunt them down. That cowardly shit that they did the other day, talking about, the guy from Utah says, well, the senator, I believe he was from Utah. He says, well, the election didn't come out like I wanted to come out. And then in the next phrase, he calls Trump a demagogue. So then the campaign manager for Mitt Romney says, look, this is incredulous. How can the guy say, this is the guy I wanted to win? And then in the next sentence, he called him a demagogue. And this is Mitt Romney's people. I never thought that I would be such a Mitt Romney fan. But he's a guy that really, something he's kind of started last year. He started breaking away from that stupid stuff. He got elected.
It took him a while. Listen, if they wanted to start cleaning house, go and arrest Donald Jr.,
Rudy Giuliani,
and all these others who stood up there in front of those white supremacist Nazis, militia, and said, "We with you. Go ahead, take the Capitol." They fanned the flames. of insurrection, they need to be arrested right now.
But
Yeah,
what about like,
I want to see real actions like that. People being arrested and going to jail, but I don't want to see a big show, right? I feel like if we do these hearings in Congress, and make it a big public show, then it just becomes about that, about the image. I would just want to see very quietly people go into jail and just be like, we have no tolerance for it. We don't need to talk about it. You're just
due process. Give them due process.
Sure.
Let them. They'll be able to hire lawyers.
Make a show out of it.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. Yeah. But at the same time, the rest of the world has to know that in some way it's got to be a balance there, because we are putting on a show for the rest of the world. Because I look at it, and I've told Craig and the guys this a couple of maybe 6-7 months ago. I remember when Obama left office, the United States as a brand was the #1 brand in the world. A year after Donald Trump was in office, we were number 7 or 8. You know what I'm saying? Just as a brand, the concept of the brand. And
as far as a democracy, I mean, look, Israel has indicted their prime minister. He's facing trial. I mean, they have a democracy, and we have to show that we still have a democracy as well.
South Korea.
How do we do it though? How do we do it in a way that it looks like actual justice is being sought, rather than the days in the immediate aftermath of the French Revolution where we were just lopping people's heads off? I mean, how do you do it in a way that it doesn't look like it's just strictly political, but actually is based on the fact that you are trying to undermine this democracy? So I mean, like a Josh Hawley or a Ted Cruz. For bringing this stuff to
the temperament of the judges, the temperament of the people. They have to be just quiet and steady and serious. Like more Robert Muellers and fewer,
It's not gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen in New York.
It's got to be bloody, and they got to put some dirt on these folks. You got to kill the careers of these people.
Oh, sure. I want to kill the careers.
Well, here,
wait, one at a time, everybody, because it gets jumbled.
Right. Well, I'll tell you this much. New York's going to make it happen. Letitia James, she's going to make it happen. She's going to make it bloody, because, Eric, you don't have to do it on a federal level. You go after one and you show them as an example. It's almost like back in the old times where you cut off the head and put it on a spike and you set it out on the land and you let them know this is the kind of justice that you're going to get for having attacked America. And that's what you're going to do. Just like it's got to be bloody now. No question about it. And I think Letitia James is the woman for us. I really do. And it takes it off the federal level because there's so much to unwind that Biden and his team have to do. Oh, and some God love Biden. Merrick Garland, he's not necessarily my guy, but I love the fact that this guy is going to get an opportunity to work and demonstrate his skills on a national level as Attorney General. And, at the end of the day, I believe he's going to be a Supreme Court justice, but only God will tell us that, But again, it is a good day to see that guy who was a middle of the road kind of guy. I think he's a Republican by trade, but as a judge, he's been a fairly conservative guy, and that was something that was conscientiously thought by our former by Obama when he chose him. He chose somebody that but Obama should have learned when his first 2 years in office when he tried to reach across the aisle, because you look at it, those Democrats, those Southern Democrats, and what they call those blue dogs. They kicked Obama's hat off, and even though he had a majority, they wouldn't support him. So
they played
about race. So
they played Obama. Obama had a super majority of I guess 60 senators. They had the House. I mean, and they kept yelling, "Hey, come on, let's be bipartisan about this." And he tried thinking, and they duped him, and that was some wasted time there. That they could have got a lot done, and he blew that.
I mean, this is a very, very narrow majority that they're going to have going forward. So they are going to have to be somewhat careful about how they approach these sorts of things. But, I do want to bring this up because, we talked about how this happened in the first place and the Capitol Police being completely overwhelmed and also somewhat complicit in certain instances in letting these guys get in there. There's going to be a huge investigation that's going to take place about that. How many of these officers believed in this stuff and were taking selfies with these guys? Some of them let people in the gates instead of doing their job, which is protecting the Capitol. Gary Peters is going to be the chair of the Homeland Security Committee, our Senator Gary Peters. He's about to be elevated into a much more high-profile role in the U.S. Senate than he had in his first term. These hearings have to happen. We need to find out what happened in that chain of command. Who was making the order to not bring in the National Guard? Who made the order to not have a fully staffed Capitol Police Corps that day? It doesn't make any sense to me, but I think the federal government is going to have to get involved in some of these discussions, and we should find out a little bit more, because if these guys have been infiltrated by these white supremacist gangs in any way, we need to know this.
I have to say I agree with Steph when she talks about doing everything more low key. I think there's plenty of Senate staffers, House staffers that can go and interview people, put together a report, and not have this dragged out thing. I think the highest priority, I think if Biden wants to get in there, the highest priority is to get vaccines in people's arms, to get the pandemic under control, to get the economy revving again, and showing that these guys are about getting things done, about government, and not, the show. I mean, the thing with Donald Trump for the last 4 years, that guy he's an entertainer. Look, he took the most mundane process of confirming electoral votes and turned it into the most high profile, sucking up every cycle of the news, every news cycle. I mean, the guy is an entertainer. He's about ratings. We need government that works.
Yeah.
Not government that's showtime.
But if I don't have to watch any more TV for a while and not worry, I will be so happy. Like, just work. Don't talk to me about it. Just do it.
Look, but I mean, it's one thing to say that Donald Trump was incompetent as a president, and he absolutely was, because if you look back at the things that he actually accomplished over the 4 years, there's really not much there other than a tax break for some of his rich buddies. That's about the only thing he got done. Nothing else that he said actually happened, with the exception of some executive orders and some stupid trade wars that didn't make any sense. The guy didn't accomplish a damn thing. He has no legacy other than this thing that happened here. But one thing that he did do was basically cut open the bag, letting loose the white supremacist assholes back into the scene here in the United States in a way that they haven't been in a long time. And to the point where they're feeling fearless and able to openly spout, this bigoted nonsense that they're doing. This is something that we need to get a grip on. And like I was talking about Gary Peters a second ago, the Homeland Security Committee, this is not about foreign terrorists right now. This is about what's within. I did a series on this back in 2012 at WDET when I was there about the rise in white supremacist groups and right-wing extremism in this country. And I got death threats for that. And of course, also people told us we were overreacting. But after the first 4 years of the Obama administration, it was pretty clear what was going on. I would like to see the Homeland Security Committees do a full investigation into these groups and actually take them as seriously as we need to. Because as I said at the beginning, when they say they're going to do something, typically they follow through in some capacity. This is something that we need to come to grips with in this country and admit that we have a problem with.
The FBI has had a domestic terrorism group for a long time, and they were doing quite a bit. And then particularly they really revved up after the Oklahoma bombing in April of 95. However, in 2001, suddenly domestic terrorism got shoved aside, and international terrorism and counterintelligence, and the FBI shifted its resources, and now I think they've realized some of the dangers here of these groups. I mean, they've always been monitoring them, but it sort of ebbs and flows depending on the mood of the country. But I think now they're back on the radar, and I think we'll see more of it. I mean, look, ATF. FBI, there's groups. The ADL actually does a great job, and they work with the ATF and FBI monitoring the Southern Poverty Law Center. Follows these groups as well.
But they also have media on the other side pushing back, calling them a terrorist organization. And how dare they call people racist when the evidence is there that this is going on? And I mean, like I said,
but Craig, Martin Luther King was killed by a guy that didn't have $1 in his pocket and made it to England on a forged passport, and they never tried to find out who was behind that assassination. You listen, Timothy McVeigh did not blow up the federal building by himself or with James Nichols, who was an idiot. It was a conspiracy, and nobody wanted to say, "Oh, you know what? Let's go dig deep and find all the conspirators." They want to do this now. Don't impeach Donald Trump because there might be another riot. You know what? Right now, it is time to blow the top off this festering sore called institutional racism, racism in the armed forces, racism in the police departments, racism in city governments, racism on the federal level. They had sympathizers with the Capitol Police who sat there and say, let these people attack the U.S. Congress. Just imagine 150 Congress people dead, the half of the Senate shot up. Man, you had
but here's the thing, though, Adolph.
All right, Todd, go ahead.
Just call it real America. Instead of calling it institutional racism, this is America, what it's been built on. I mean, since its inception, this is what we've been about. And then it's only the guilt that comes across. It's only the ones that say, listen, let's deal with it in a compassionate way. No. Let's deal with it as it needs to be dealt with. It's going to be painful. But in every side, we've already been feeling the pain. You know what I'm saying? Any form of minority, particularly Black, because that's where it starts. It starts with us, but it's metastasized into other minorities. It's metastasized where you got 600 kids who have not been reunited with their parents who were locked in cages. I'm talking about this guy. These are war crimes that this guy has committed. This guy needs to go to The Hague, take him out of this country and let him go across the water and try him over there because we seem to not be able to handle our own shit. We can't do it ourselves. And the arrogance of Americans is no, we're not going to do that because we run the world. No, we've shown that we're not capable. This racist cancer that we have is so insidious that it just can't be resolved by ourselves. We need some co-parenting from other countries around.
Can we ban the phrase "This is not America"? Because every time everyone stands up, any politician or leader, oh, this is not America. Shut up. This is America. You just want to keep your eyes on, and maybe like we've been saying, this is an opportunity to pull everyone's hands down and say, look, this is America. Deal with it. Well, but we need to ban anybody from saying that again.
Listen, we deal with it every day when we ride down streets like Woodward and named after slave owners. We see statues all over honoring people that shouldn't be honored. When I was in the military, had to go to military installations named after traitors. People who was responsible for hundreds of thousands of people killed during the Civil War, who was responsible for enslaving millions of Black folks in this country. And we honor these folks with statues, with the names of schools, universities, etc.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing to me too is when we're talking about discrimination and we're talking about bigotry, we have a Supreme Court in this country that seems hell bent on making sure that you can hide behind religion to continue these sorts of things, especially when it comes to gay rights and same sex relationships. But they're really trying to find ways to make it okay for somebody to profess that they just don't like somebody and therefore they shouldn't get equal treatment. And until we actually come to grips with this and realize what it is, I don't think anything's going to change anytime soon.
It's funny, there are a lot of people who complain, are so fearful of, Islam and saying, Islam has permeated so many of the different governments, particularly like Iran and some other governments and stuff like that. But yet here we have this, Christianity that seems to be the prevailing, the ruling, and people will say, well, gay marriage, well, the Bible says, marriage is between a man and a woman. And you're like, well, what happened to separation of church and state? What does it matter what the Bible says?
Well, and again,
here's the problem with that. is the problem with that is that, okay, you know, you want to infuse what your religion is, because number one, religion is a dangerous thing. I believe in spirituality, which is our relationship with God, because those words, you know, marriage is between a man and a woman. Number one, you're talking about 2 and 3 and 4,000 years ago. Number one, but and you know, it wasn't accurate then, because you know, what did he say about Aristotle? You know, he you know, those guys did everything, and they're heralded as these great, and they may have been great intellectually and all these other things, but nonetheless, you know, they want to infuse that to their benefit, because, you know, but where does it say in the Bible that you're supposed to scourge other people because of their beliefs, who are trying to live decent lives and things of that nature? But here's what happens. If you allow it to happen to, it goes, and we should be aligned on one thing. If you allow it to happen to Black people, if I allow it to happen to gay people, if I allow it to happen to other individuals, it's just an ugliness that allows itself to grow, and then it just attacks everyone. And it's seen itself in this past just 4 years. It's seen itself in and those kids and those families that were the DACA people that were just treated that way. It's because of what did it start out with? It started out with Charlottesville. Remember when they were trying to take down these statues of these people who should have been, if you want to deal with it like old empires used to do, the people who were traitors, what did they do? They got their heads cut off. Now I'm not a fan of capital punishment, but those people who are on the other side, I guarantee you that they are. So why not take some of their own medicine and do what they want with them? You know what I'm saying? And so that's pretty much the concept that they should live by. But again, if you allow it to happen to myself, or if I allow it to happen to someone who's a DACA individual, or someone who's gay, if I allow that, then I'm allowing it to myself, and I can't.
No, when we allow dehumanization, then we can do anything to anybody. I mean, that's how we slaughter animals all the time, because we dehumanize animals. And the same thing goes with people. I mean, and we are, you know, in society here, people are bigoted to the point of what they're allowed to be bigoted. When they can no longer be bigoted against Blacks, then they're bigoted against Hispanics. When they can't be against Hispanics, then it's Arabs. Then it's, you know, then whatever other group, they can still be bigoted until that group speaks up and pushes back. And that's just sort of the human nature of society, you know.
Well, let's move on here for just a second, because I mean, we do still have the question of what I believe, what is the date today? The 8th. So 12 more days of Donald Trump being in the office here. What is the remedy? And clearly the man's unfit to be the president of the United States based on the actions of the last few days. But I've been saying that since the man was elected. And we have been talking about this. And just a couple of months ago, Allan, at the election, it's almost been, it's been 2 months now. We basically said, maybe we should get rid of this guy before, you know, maybe we should impeach him before, because he could do some more damage. And clearly he has done some more damage. So is it worth it to impeach this guy at this point in time? And I mean, if only to make sure he can never run again.
If you can do it very quickly, I mean, it seemed like in a day or less, you could present a case with a couple videos put together saying, here's our case, let's vote on this. And move it to the Senate, and not have, I mean, you know, the chances of passing the Senate are still questionable. And so we don't want to waste. I mean, like I say, we've got a pandemic, we've got economic havoc, we've got
two pandemics, Allan, and Trump is one of them. We got a virus, and Trump is another pandemic. We take a page out of Mitch McConnell playbook. We don't need to debate on it. Just take it to the floor and vote. That's Mitch McConnell. That's what you do. I don't care if Donald Trump has 1 hour left in his term. Impeach the son of a bitch right now.
We have to make a statement about who we are. Like, we have all these laws and procedures, the 25th Amendment, the Emoluments Clause. None of it matters. We ought to take all that crap out of the Constitution if we're not going to follow it. You know, who are we as a country? Do we allow a president to act this way, or do we take action? Because if we don't take action again, we're saying it's fine. You can just keep doing it. Our laws don't mean anything. Our Constitution is just words. Whatever.
Now, would that be enough to stop the type of action that we have seen from a number of these Congress people that have been enabling the president for a long time? Just getting rid of Donald Trump all of a sudden put all these people like Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley on notice that their behavior is something that could be looked at next, or would they still feel emboldened to be, the jackasses that they have shown themselves to be?
I mean, I don't think that matters. I don't think it matters as much about them as it does about us. What about all the lawmakers that are in Congress that are coming up and saying, watching what Pelosi and Schumer do? Like, what do leaders do? And should we believe in any of these laws?
Well, I agree with that, but I also agree with what Adolph said earlier. You let them know, some from the bell that rings, they're going to run like rats. That's what they're going to do, because it's like like Steph said, it's about us, how we are, and we're showing them what we're going to do and the type of justice you're going to get if you attack the very supposed principles of what America is supposed to be. And so therefore, if he doesn't have 1 hour, if I start the process and I don't finish, they know what's next for the next fool that tries to do what he did. So we have to set the template of what we're going to do. So spend that energy, because we ain't doing nothing right now in the next 12 days anyway. So,
what I find humorous is that Betsy DeVos suddenly says, "Oh my God,
this is the bridge too far, Betsy."
Horrible. And we have a story where the headline is basically like Betsy DeVos resigns. Did she have a moment of conscience, or is it a coward's way out? And basically, look, by her and Cho stepping down as Secretary of Transportation, they aren't put in a position where they would have to vote possibly on the 25th Amendment. They're no longer in the cabinet. So they remove themselves from that. So they're probably like, we don't want to deal with that. They could care. I mean, it took you 4 years to suddenly say, oh my God, I'm outraged at this guy's behavior. I mean, every single day you should be outraged over his behavior.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Betsy DeVos is nothing but a checkbock for the GOP. That's why they put her in these positions, and she's got to figure out where her money's going to go next, and who's going to be out there.
Deadline Detroit.
That's right. I'm not sure. That might be one that I, on principle, deny. And so sit there and say, we don't want your filthy lucre. But all right. So obviously, these people that like Donald Trump aren't going away. Right. This wing of the Republican Party, if you can call it that anymore, are still out there. And there is clearly competition that is emerging right now to gain these people as followers, whether it's Josh Hawley, who's clearly ambitious, or Ted Cruz, who is just as slimy as Ted Cruz has always been, maybe a little bit more so. Is there somebody that you see that's going to try to keep this sort of nativist bullshit streak going?
Not if we go after him like we're supposed to. Ted Cruz, that's one of the most despicable individuals I've ever seen. That guy, Trump, talked about him like a dog. And he talked about his wife, talked about his daddy, talked about everything about him. And yet he curries favor of him. How could I even respect something like that? I mean, that's Christian, what's on the bottom of my shoe. And I've been walking through stuff all day.
We forget that these guys are such, they see the politics as sport. They see it as, it's no longer, they have no conscience. They just know the playbook on how to survive and they're all trying to go for the gem, the presidency. They don't care about anything but playing the game, and they pride themselves on being experts at the game.
But Lindsey Graham is like the worst example of that, right? That guy.
Well, these moments of conscience we saw from Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham the other night on the floor when they finally reconvened the other day. I mean, Mitt Romney was the only one that I watched. I could sit there and say, you know what, Mitt's standing on principle here, and I didn't vote for Mitt Romney. I don't think I'd ever vote for Mitt Romney in any situation, but at least he had a moral foot to stand on. Whereas Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell, who basically have coddled President Trump for years and allowed him to do whatever the heck he wanted, are now trying to sit there and distance themselves at the 11th and a half hour. It doesn't make any sense. And I mean, I hope people could see through this, but Adolph, politics is a weird thing. People forget this kind of stuff. And 2 years from now, when some of these guys are up for re-election, I mean, will people forget or will they remember this time?
We cannot let them forget. Listen, Stacey Abrams, I call her the Harriet Tubman of the Democratic Party.
Applause for her, by the way, man.
She has started a movement in Georgia that listen, North Carolina is the next state that's gonna go blue.
Oh, for sure.
Florida is gonna go blue.
Texas at
the
some point.
South is about to fall. Texas, you got more brown people moving into these states. You got black folks. You got these coalitions. Georgia had a true coalition. Listen, the politicians, the black politicians who got elected after the Civil War, right now will be proud of what just happened in Georgia. That was true coalition. You Jewish and black voters coming together like they used to back in the 50s and the 60s, and they made it happen. Now we need to take that movement and take it on the road. And listen, and put them on notice. Get Ted Cruz out of the Senate. Josh, he just lost the book deal because of his stance. You got to hurt these folks in their pockets, in their careers, with their families. They can't get jobs. Now listen, no more business as usual. And you start by indicting the Trump family. That's where it starts at. That's where and Giuliani need to be led out there the same way that they told these people march on the Capitol. That was treason. That was an act of war. And if black folks and anybody else, if those was Muslims out there and somebody told them to march on the Capitol, we would be under martial law. Dearborn be locked down. Any city that got large population would be under the threat of the United States government. And why are we not doing this right now? You tell me.
Well, I look at Stacey Abrams. I'm like I say, I'm a spiritual guy. I believe that God has sanctioned this and only will let the devil go so far. But just imagine, it's ironic that it was her losing the governor's race that created the general that she's become. And it took that for her to become what this guy from this theological, I call him a wizard, or not a wizard, but he's a mastermind of the word. But he says, he describes people like her as the hopes and dreams of slaves, the ones that are, as they dreamed of a time when their lineage would live in a free world or be continuing to fight, that she is the hopes that our ancestors talk about, and she's living that. And I mean, and it's wonderful because she doesn't fit the dynamic of a Loeffler. You know what I'm saying? She is she is her own self. She's beautiful to me. I find beauty in her. But as America looks at it, she's not like Keisha Lance Bottoms or like the mayor. Whereas it's a different dynamic. And beauty is in the eye of the beholder, because I find her beautiful because of her strength. And I think she's an attractive woman anyway, but she doesn't fit what we call that American dynamic. And she's out here leading the front. And that, to me, not only on so many different levels, the loss of the governor's race, the fact that she's black, the fact that she's a woman, the fact that she doesn't fit into their profile, and she's the one who's leading the charge, man, I'm behind her.
Well, that's Moses. She might not get to the promised land, but she brought everybody else.
That's it. That's it.
She's president. I don't know.
She brought 2 Senate seats. She did what Tom Perez could not do.
They're soft.
Listen, Democrats have an opportunity to scorch earth policy right now. Go in and undo what you can do by executive order, and then start passing what you need to pass. Because we never know what's going to happen during the midterm election.
Right.
The majority.
If you think about this, though, I mean, Donald Trump and his impact on the nation and the Republican Party in itself. If you take a look at this, the guy gets elected barely. Obviously, the Electoral College worked in his favor that time. Strange he didn't bitch about it then. But, of course, he wins. 2 years later in the midterms, the Democrats take back the House. Another 2 years later, he loses the White House and the Senate. And somebody said, well, hey, Donald Trump did make America great again.
He gave us the Democrats control. Yeah.
Well, and and now the Democrats have an opportunity to actually pass some legislation with this majority they have in the Senate. And again, Joe Manchin is on notice because everybody's saying that he could be the guy that votes with the Republicans to block some of the things that the Democrats would like to do. But I think you have an opportunity for like a New Deal type package here with this majority that you have. It's not a huge majority, but if you hold your coalition together and you get something done right off the bat, whether it's on healthcare, whether it's about figuring out how to deal with this, COVID, getting the economy back on track. I mean, there is so much work to be done right now. You have an opportunity to actually help people in a way that makes them realize that their vote wasn't wasted this time around. They have
we only have
to do
2
something
years,
effective.
really. I think
They
we
have
really
2
have
years.
to assume you only have 2 years in case we lose, the legislature, just like Todd was saying. We got to hit out the gates running and get a lot of stuff done before we lose our chance. Then we won't have anything to run on in 2 years.
Well, I think they could. They have an opportunity. I think the public will allow it to happen. I mean, obviously, as we witnessed with Barack Obama, it's not that easy to get these things done. But I'm hoping that we've learned some lessons since then and how to approach this, and don't expect the other side to necessarily be, honest players in this.
Man, we can't do what the Roman emperors used to do: go and take people out of the Senate and make them disappear. They didn't trust the Senate themselves.
But enough public shame for the actions of some of these people might be enough to actually relegate them to the sidelines in this debate. Because if I see Ted Cruz on Face the Nation or Meet the Press talking about a legislative package, you know what? He does not have an equal voice at this point. He has proven himself to be a bad actor. He should not be the one that's getting that spotlight. No matter how big his name is, Chuck Todd should not be talking to that slime ball.
No one should talk to Chuck Todd. We got to get rid of him.
Well, I'm not going to go there, but the media, just because I don't know, I've never met the guy, so I don't know. But all right, we've got about 10 minutes left here. And obviously, we're still overcoming the shock of what we witnessed this week, but we do have to make our nominees for Schmuck of the Week. And this is something I wanted to talk to Allan about because he has been here for every episode of this we have done now over the last 2 years. We're starting year 3 now of the week that was here on Deadline Detroit. Could we alter the rules this week so that it is not, out of bounds to nominate Donald Trump as Schmuck of the Week? Because it is named after him, by the way. We already named it Donald J. Trump.
He's such an obvious choice, but obviously, maybe for his final days.
I almost don't want to do it because for some reason, I almost feel sorry for the guy, like he's suffering from some sort of mental illness right now.
I don't. No.
He's definitely suffering from something.
I want him to continue to suffer.
Yeah.
Well, he's going to, I have a feeling, in his own mind for a long time.
I think what we've seen is there's no shortage of schmucks of the week.
Yeah.
No, we have a whole bunch here. Who wants to nominate first this week?
I'll go first.
All right, Adolf, who you got?
The First Lady. While they were attacking the Capitol, she was in charge of a photo shoot.
Wow.
Listen, unbelievable. And yet they attacked Michelle Obama each and every day that her husband was in office. And they let this, she's a bimbo. She got in this country. If they would have used the rules that they do on folks trying to get green cards, etc., she wouldn't even be here, let alone her parents, who was fast tracked. She's not as dumb as people want people to think. Oh, she doesn't know what's going on. She knows what's going on, and she's a co-conspirator in all this crazy mess that's going on in the White House, a dysfunctional place. And she was more worried about a photo shoot and being on Vogue magazine than the people that died in that assault on our democracy. So she's the Schmuck of the week.
I think that's
or whatever.
I think that's Melania's first nomination ever since we've been doing this as Schmuck of the Week. So that's an interesting one. All right. Who wants to go next? Allan, why don't you go next? Oh, Steph wants to go next. All right, Steph White.
I'd like to nominate a local congressman, Tim Walberg, as one of the people to object to the vote, even Michigan's vote. I think he's disloyal and negative and still feeding the fire of Donald Trump and all of his negativity. I think, unfortunately, it plays well in his district. But I think, we all need leaders that can actually help move people into a better place, but he just feeds on people's worst instincts. And so for that, I would like to nominate him.
I think Tim Walberg is a pretty wise choice. Anybody that puts their fear of a primary over telling the truth, I think, is somebody that definitely belongs to the nominee list this time around. And Tim Walberg, definitely one of them for sure. Todd Perkins.
Well, I just wanted to say something about what Adolph said about the first lady. She's very sophisticated. What about the deal she renegotiated with her husband as far as their prenuptial agreement? She renegotiated and doubled down on it at right before or during the presidency. So she's not unsophisticated by any stretch of the imagination.
She better get the cash quick because those assets may be frozen very, very soon.
Yeah, and she get a divorce so she could decline plausible deniability and all that.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. But my schmuck of the week is Elaine Chao. And really, Elaine Chao stands in the shoes. It's not fair just to her, but I'm not talking about fairness anymore. I'm talking about reality. And she is, along with Elaine Chao, I would put Betsy DeVos. I would put Lindsey Graham. I would put all those people who want to quote unquote be someone who wants to now renounce Trump because it's so clear and evident what he's created was a manifestation of what happened the other day. This is something that was already cooking. It was already in the pot. And now they want to just, because you do a resignation 12 days after that, and you've stood by and allowed for 4 years this stuff to go on. So you think that does something to you as far as your legacy? No, it's tarnished. It should be burned to the ground, just like those statues that need to be ripped down that are embedded in the South. So no, that she's a schmuck of the week. But again, in all fairness, there's a whole bunch of them. Like Craig said, there's enough to go, or Allan said, there's enough to go around.
All right, Allan Lengel.
I was going to say Betsy DeVos. I mean, there's a woman who suddenly, if you're with the administration for 4 years, I'm sorry, you have no conscience left. And for you to suddenly pretend like, oh my God, this is stepping over the line. I mean, it didn't take 4 years for Trump to step over the line. But the other person, Rudy Giuliani, who talked about at the rally, talked about trial by combat. I mean, what else can that mean except go in there and kick some ass? Go there to the Capitol and mess things up. And they're all. Look, and Todd's been around a long time. And you deal with the federal government. Believe me, they could string together a conspiracy, an indictment that would include Giuliani, that would include President Trump, and a bunch of the other people involved, and they would easily do it with anyone else. If you or I stood up there on the streets on 4th Street and said, go to the federal courthouse and show them what, and there's suddenly violence and people are dying, you just might show up. Your name might show up in an indictment. So.
All right. Well, I was gonna say Ted Cruz or Josh Hawley, because they are just absolute slime balls, but we've known that about them for a long time. But I am going to break my own rule and give it to Donald Trump, and here's why. This is a man who, in 4 years, lost his party, the House, lost his party, the Senate, left a smoking crater of what is now the Republican Party. They now have to lick their wounds and figure out what direction they want to go in. He unleashed the racist beast in the United States and enabled them in a way that no politician has since the post-Reconstruction era. This is a man who never told the truth about any single thing that he ever did while he was in office. He lied over 15,000 times, including 500 lies in one day in a speech that he gave just before the election. This is a man who has people believing him and his bizarre conspiracy theories and this wingnut QAnon crap. He's given it mainstream acceptance in a way that we're going to have to fix over the next several years to get the crazy out of our political system. And I'm not sure that we have the power on the Republican side to get control of the wingnut section of the party that they welcomed into their tent with open arms and now are trying to figure out how to control. This is a guy that basically has screwed up our politics in this country for the next 2 decades. He will go down as the worst president in the history of the United States, and he will go down as one of the worst leaders in Western political history. This man is a disgrace. He's an embarrassment to the country. We are seeing it now. We are being made fun of by Vladimir Putin and by Xi Jinping. We are being made fun of even now by Benjamin Netanyahu, who cozied up to this guy for as many years as he did. Donald Trump has done irreparable harm to the United States, and we will learn from this for a long, long time. But I know this, my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren will be learning about the worst presidents in the history of the United States, and Donald Trump will be at the top of that list for all time. Well done, sir. You wanted to shake things up? You did. Good riddance. And it can't come soon enough. That's my schmuck of the week.
I'll add, there seems to be this notion that get somebody who has no government experience, that they're going to be good at it. And that also, if they're a business person, we saw Rick Snyder, ended up failing as a governor. I mean, he fell short because he looked at the constituents as customers. He called them customers. We see that Donald Trump, who had many business failings, so, he was supposed to be great on the economy, great on everything. He ran up a major, major deficit, which the Republicans never voiced anything. He was basically using stimulus money when it wasn't needed to sort of goose the unemployment to make it even lower than it had ever been, which was great in some ways. But he was also running up the debt. Now the Republicans are like, no, just give him $600, not $2,000.
Well, in a last final act, he announced, of course, today that he's not going to attend the inauguration, and to which I can say, good. You know what? Nobody wants you there. Nobody wants you there, and I guarantee you, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris don't want you there. But you know what? Mike Pence will be there, because Mike Pence, for all his faults, and he was close to being my schmuck this week as well. At least he did what he was supposed to do. He followed the law. Yeah. So I got one quick story. Gary Miles from the Detroit News, who's the publisher over there, put out a story the other day. Was the Detroit News that said, Pence bucks Trump and doesn't do what he said. And I said, no, it should say Pence follows law, Gary. And he actually liked it. He's like, yeah, you're right. Because, Mike Pence just did what he was supposed to do. He followed the law. And now Donald Trump has thrown him under the bus as well. So, that's all you need to know about Donald Trump. And if any of you still follow this guy or like this guy in some capacity, you've got some soul searching to do.
74 million people thought he was a better choice to be president. So we got a long way to go. That's why you got to send a message, and you got to string them up, all of the Trump in the White House, and Rudy Giuliani and everybody that enable this crazy guy. I said it when he first got elected. They're going to have to put him in a straitjacket to get him out of the White House.
It's pretty darn close. And people thought we were joking when we said that kind of stuff. We weren't.
You know what? I think when we look at a reflection of the country as how many, we talked about the masses, 74 million people who voted for him. It doesn't, the masses, look how many people, billions, buy McDonald's hamburgers. And we know how horrible that is for you. But people, the masses speak.
Yeah, they do indeed. Well, the masses spoke on November 3rd. Joe Biden is the president-elect and will be inaugurated in just a few days. And that'll be an interesting day. But next week, we'll be back with more The Week That Was. Looking forward to that as well. But I want to thank my panelists this week. Of course, Adolph Mongo, welcome back. We are pleased to have had you here today. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Steph White, nice job on your first appearance on the show. Appreciate it. There you go. Todd Perkins, always appreciate it. And we'll get an update from you soon on your lawsuit with Grosse Pointe Shores. We'll talk about that another day, I'm sure. Yeah. Appreciate that. All right. And Allan Lengel, of course, we appreciate you every week. Nancy Derringer should be back next week, I think. Nancy Kaffer was supposed to join us this week, but she had a deadline from the Detroit Free Press, so we'll have her next week instead, and that'll work out. But thanks to Michael Lucido for engineering the broadcast. We really do appreciate everybody who watches, shares, likes. All that stuff makes a huge, huge difference. And don't forget, check out Deadline Detroit. DeadlineDetroit.com each and every day for all your news needs. And think about a membership at DeadlineDetroit.com. Just $3 a month to keep our little operation going here. It's DeadlineDetroit.com/membership. Help us out. We appreciate it very much. And we think you'll get something really good out of it as well.
Craig?
Go ahead.
No, I just tell people you put that out there, and I don't think it's important enough. I'm a member, and I got to increase my membership. But if they're going to get good news, good media, this is what it takes, a small price, something that we're going to have somebody who's uncompromised in giving the true story. So, I just tell your audience that I'm as much of a believer as that or sort of a participant from time to time.
It's the only go-to media in town. Listen, at Deadline Detroit, the only go-to media in town. The others, those days are behind them.
We used to have the Chronicle, but we don't anymore.
Well, I'll tell you what, and it's important this year because we got a city election coming up this year, which is going to be a big deal, and a lot of shuffling going on there. Just to let folks know, one of the people I'm going to be talking to next week is ML Elric, formerly of the Detroit Free Press, just wrapping up his time there. It looks like he's exploring a run for council, so he's going to be joining me, I think, on Monday afternoons. I'll probably have it up on Tuesday. You can hear what he's all about. He's somebody I've known since the first grade, so should be an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, everybody, have a great weekend. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining me, and we'll talk again soon.
All right. Thank
you. Stay home safely.
My name's ML Elric. I'm an investigative reporter and a connoisseur of fine yogurts. I know a little bit about Detroit. I know a little bit about deadlines. And I'm asking you to become a member of DeadlineDetroit.com. Like me, I'm not asking you to do anything I wouldn't do. I'm making a monthly donation. My wife is making a monthly donation. I know that seems redundant, but they need the money, and the money goes to a good place. Getting the story out, getting the truth out. Because if we don't support local journalism, there's some people a couple blocks away from here who are going to get away with a whole bunch of stuff that's going to cost you a whole lot more than just a few bucks out of your pocket every month. Go to DeadlineDetroit.com, become a member. You'll see it's really easy at the top of the website. Give early, give often, give generously. Just give a damn. That's the best way I know how.
Stressed out? Need sleep? The cold weather bringing out those aches and pains or arthritis? There's never been a better time to try cannabis. Check out the greenhouse of Walled Lake and learn about the natural way to relax and escape all that 2020 stress. The greenhouse is locally owned, and they love helping people who are new to cannabis. They've got a great flower selection of the best Michigan-grown buds and the biggest pre-roll selection around. Don't want to smoke? No problem. There's vape carts, tinctures, concentrates, and everyone's favorite, edibles, like gummies, chocolates, peppermint bark, breath sprays, even the original Mackinac Island fudge. So check out the greenhouse of Walled Lake. 21 and over welcome, no med card needed. They also offer senior and veterans discounts and have a great loyalty rewards program. The Greenhouse of Walled Lake. That's greenhousemi.com.